since October, when we held our first meeting for this project. We've held 5 different meetings to date, and tonight we will tell you what we have in store for 35th Avenue Southwest to make things safer for everyone that used the roadway. To kick off tonight, we have many guest speakers tonight, and to kick things off, I've got my boss's boss, I think, the director of the Seattle Department of Transportation, Scott Cooley.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks everybody for coming out. It's funny, I just moved to Seattle about a year ago now, coming up on a year and a week or so.
From where?
From Chicago. So one of the first communities that I came out to visit was West Seattle, and one of the first places that I came out to West Seattle was in this area right here. And I learned at that point that 35th Avenue is referred to locally and colloquially as I-35. So I became acutely aware of some of the community's concerns about the street. And so Jim has been working hard since October with all of you, with folks in the community, with other folks in the department, to come up with a way to make to make 35th Avenue safer. We've advertised this meeting through a bunch of different venues. We've gotten comments through a bunch of different avenues. We've literally, I think, per Jim, had thousands of people engaged on this project, which I think is a testament to, the fact that passions are going to run high on both sides, which I think is understandable when it's coming when it's a street folks community. But I think the data really kind of speaks for itself, and I'm going to cut myself short pretty quickly so I can let my boss, who's Jim's boss, talk a little bit. But before I turn it over to him, in the last 2 years, there's been 128 traffic crashes, or 128 injuries from traffic crashes and 2 deaths. And over 10 years, 6 of the crashes and 5 deaths. And so just to put that in perspective, when I think about those kinds of things, I think about it from a public safety standpoint. I view a traffic death as preventable, and a traffic injury as preventable. And if we were talking about assaults or homicides, those numbers would be terrifying to us. And we would be screaming for the police to have a presence in our community. With traffic crashes, that's kind of how I view it. So we've adopted Vision Zero with the mayor's leadership, which is focused on reducing traffic crashes, serious and fatal injuries from traffic crashes to zero. It's something that started in Sweden, but has really sweetened the country. Since I've moved here, there have been a number of people that have been hit and killed in the streets. I remember a lot of them by name. I remember a lot of the details of all of those crashes. Not just the ones that make the newspapers either, but a lot of them. And so, to me, as a department, anything we can do to make our streets safer is really important. And if that means that we have to change the speed limit or change the channelization of the street to slow people down to the speed limit, not slow people down that are driving the speed limit, but slow people down to the speed limit.
Changing the speed limit in itself doesn't keep flow of traffic at all.
Allow me to finish, please. So that's something that we...
Can we ask questions of you?
Certainly, I'm going to stick around. But
Great. Let's do that right now whenever you finish.
actually, you know what? I'm going to allow Councilmember Rasmussen and the mayor to talk, and then I'm happy to stay
Great.
around as long as you guys would like.
Fantastic. We just want to make sure it's not a foregone conclusion that we're doing this.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy to stick around and talk about it. So with that, rather than hold off and have you guys listen to me more, I'm going to turn it over to the council member, then I'm going to turn it over to the mayor, and then we're going to turn it back to Jim. Okay? So thank you guys very much.
As Scott said, he's been the director now of the Department of Transportation for about a year. And I think I was the person who took him on that tour of West Seattle. And we focused on 35th and Delridge and also along Alaska, not Alaska, but Admiral Way, where we've had a number of crashes, fatal crashes, where significant changes need to be made to improve this area. So my work began on this 7-8 years ago, and I was adding up the list of the changes that occurred along this street already, 35th already, and it's quite a list of over 10 different type of changes that did multiple things within those this included the red light cameras. But one of the things that we asked the Department of Transportation to do at that time was to look at channelizing or creating a road guide where you reduce the width of the road and the number of lanes. And at that time, SDOT said no, that they couldn't do that for a number of technical reasons. But I still felt that even though we've made a number of changes along this corridor, there's still more that needs to be done because I drive this corridor occasionally. Many of you take this corridor frequently, but you know that people still drive carelessly and way, way too fast. So what Scott Cooley did is to say to me, I will take another look at what more we can do with 35th Avenue Southwest. And I think that reflects a change in the tone and the style of the Seattle Department of Transportation under Mayor Murray. Scott Cooley and Don Chang, who came in under Peter Hahn, really have an approach of determining what they can do to respond to the neighborhood's concerns and needs and taking under consideration the neighborhood's suggestions. And I really appreciate that because I think that no one knows a neighborhood better or more than the people who live in a particular neighborhood. When they say that something is needed or is not needed, I think that the department should listen to that very seriously before making a decision. So I am excited that we have such a great turnout tonight. This is important to many, many people, and I have already had a preview of the changes that we're going to be proposing, so I'll stand in the back and watch the presentation and then hear some of your comments as well. So thank you everyone for being here. I know that there are strong advocates for safety along this corridor and many others, and it does make a difference. You can see what difference it makes tonight. So thank you. Yes, I think you're the next person up, and then we'll have a presentation.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Hey, my name is Ed Murray. For the last year and a half, I've been mayor of the city of Seattle. And maybe more importantly, I grew up in West Seattle, and actually in Outback. One of the things that we know is that this city was built mostly in the 19th century, not to accommodate the number of cars it has. I like to point out to people that when I was a kid, there were more people than cars in Seattle, and today there are more cars than people. And some of the negative impacts of that you see right on this street. The fourth most dangerous street in the city of Seattle. Hundreds of collisions a year, hundreds of injuries over a series of years, and 5 fatalities. People have died on the street. The city simply can't do anything. We are attempting to work with the community, as you heard from Councilmember Rasmussen, with our new director, Scott Cooley at SDOT. We are attempting to find a different way to engage communities to understand what we can do going forward. You know, this issue of the danger of our streets is pretty personal to me. A few years ago, we had a staff person in Olympia who was killed crossing the street in West Seattle, a young guy who worked for us on staff when I was in the legislature before I had the kind of job. You know, and actually as a 14-year-old, not in West Seattle, but south of here, I was hit by a car and was hospitalized for months and months because the streets that weren't being managed right. So it's personal to me, not just as mayor, but as someone who's known someone who's been killed on the streets of West Seattle and as someone who's actually experienced what damage can happen when people are not responsible. So we're trying to find the right balance between acting and doing what's the best solution that we believe, the best practice that we can come up with, as well as trying to listen to all voices in the neighborhood. So I wanted to come down here tonight to let you know that this problem, and not just this problem, a whole series of transportation challenges in West Seattle has my attention. I know we have to do something about safety here. I know we have to do something about Admiral Way, a street I know very well. I know we have to do something about the ability of people who live here, who need to get to work elsewhere, to move in and out of this neighborhood. And I want you to know you got my attention. We're trying to address these issues. I look forward, as folks who are here tonight from the city, look forward to hearing your thoughts about how we need to move forward. So thank you very much for coming out on a beautiful Seattle night. Thank you.
words on behalf of this project. And we've had quite a discussion in this community. I think the mayor and Councilmember Rasmussen and Mr. Kubley all alluded to it, but you know, through our 5 public meetings that we've held to date for this project, and through many different online forums, whether it be local blogs or next door neighbor perhaps, people have definitely been talking about safety on our streets, and for that, this project certainly I think can be viewed as a success in that manner. Before we get started, I want to introduce the team that is here with me tonight. First of all, I have Donko Chang sitting right here, who is our city traffic engineer. Donko knows this city as a driver, as a pedestrian, and most certainly as a bicyclist as well. He's got a just awesome perspective on transportation as well. Outside me, or outside here, we've got Brian Doherty in the blue shirt. Brian is our Safe Routes to School coordinator, and he's making lots of things happen here in West Seattle as well. Next to him in the white is AJ Verdugo. AJ is a longtime West Seattle resident, and he is on the design team. In fact, he drew the plans that we'll be looking at later tonight. He has a very, very intimate understanding of the corridor, and he's definitely brought that to this project. In the back, we have Monica DeWald over here. If you could wave, hi Monica. Monica is also a West Seattle resident who lives just a few blocks west of 35th, pretty close to here, in fact. Also, she brings a lot of knowledge to this project as a driver, as a pedestrian, and as a bicyclist as well. James Lee is back there as well. James is a longtime West Seattle resident, graduate of Rocks Hill Elementary School, and again, he's been one of the folks who's been really looking at the data, crunching the numbers, and making things happen. We have the Seattle Police Department in the house tonight. We have Officer McDaniel. Thank you guys for coming out. We have a Don Carrillo in the back as well, who is one of our outreach specialists here at the City of Seattle at SDOT. Did I get everybody, guys? Yeah? Okay, good. So with that, we want to roll into what you're all here to learn about, which is what we're going to do on 35th. So first of all, of course, want to remind you all what our mission, our vision, and our values are at SDOT. Our mission is to deliver a high-quality transportation system for the city, to connect people, places, and products, and we're committed to the core values, which is safety, of course. We want to have a safe city. It's our top priority. An interconnected city, an affordable city, a vibrant city, and of course an innovative city. And we're bringing innovation tonight, without a doubt. So, tonight we're going to just go through what many of you who have been to these meetings before have already seen. And let's just see a show of hands. How many people have been to one of the meetings we've had so far for this project? Awesome. Thank you guys very much for coming out again. We're going to talk about the design that we've developed for 35th and the implementation plan. We'll have a general Q&A with the audience, and then we want to leave ample time for everyone to come up, talk to myself and my colleagues about the design that we've developed so you can see for yourself how everything's going to work out here. So with that, we know that safety improvements have been requested by the community for years and years. This is a post that I found in the archives from the West Seattle blog from 2008 when there was a rally at the intersection of 35th and Juneau for pedestrian safety. This is, I think, one of the first things that I got involved in at SDOT regarding 35th Avenue Southwest. I know many of the people in this room tonight were actually part of that whole thing, including the Seattle Police Department. And, over the years, as Councilmember Rasmussen alluded to, we've made lots of different changes out there to the roadway. But really, I think nothing has really cracked the nut, if you will. So in 2014, Councilmember Rasmussen and Mayor Murray decided that 35th was ready for a road safety corridor project where we would look at conditions, traffic data, traffic volume, all the information we can get together for this roadway and work with the community to determine how we can best improve safety. So the goals of the project, as you can see, reduce speeds, reduce crashes, eliminate all the injuries that are occurring out there, and of course the near misses too, which we hear a lot about. Improve conditions for vulnerable users, people who are walking or biking or perhaps using a wheelchair or pushing kids in a stroller. And we also want to maintain acceptable vehicular travel times. And we're doing this through the lens of Vision Zero, which is an initiative that we launched in February of this year with Mayor Murray, Councilmember Rasmussen, Chief O'Toole from SPD, and many, many folks from across the city. The idea is that we can eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries if we prioritize safety on our streets and develop designs with that in mind. If we target enforcement at locations where we're having trouble, and if we educate the public on some of the things that we're doing on our streets, some of the new facilities, how do we use these things? So it's a multifaceted approach that's certainly has been shown effective in many, many places across the world, including here in Washington State. The Washington Traffic Safety Commission is actually, you may have heard of them, but you've probably heard their commercials, Drive Hammered, Get Nailed, those type of things. They've had their Target Zero plan, which is their plan to eliminate fatalities in the entire state of Washington since 2000. Since they started that plan, they've reduced fatalities by nearly 50% in our state. And most of these things can be achieved through low-cost measures, which we'll talk about tonight.
I just have one question on that real quick. Is that fatality due to accident or fatality due to drunk driving?
It's all traffic fatalities.
How many of those fatalities due to drunk driving, how many fatalities due to accidents?
30 to 50% of the fatalities that occur on our streets annually are due to people who are impaired and intoxicated. We do have different things in the works to address that issue. So the project area, as those who've been participating in this project over the months know, we're looking at 35th Avenue Southwest from Southwest Roxbury Street to basically the West Seattle Bridge or Fauntleroy or Avalon, whatever you want to call it. It's a principal arterial street. It's a primary emergency response route. It's 4 to 5 lanes wide in its existing condition. 54 to 55 feet wide. And it's served by multiple transit routes. Along the roadway, we know that about 84% of the adjacent land uses are residential, whether that be single family, multifamily, or some other living quarters. We've got churches, we've got 3 schools within 2 blocks, 1 school right on 35th Avenue Southwest. We've got 2 libraries right on the corridor, we've got parks, daycare centers, retirement homes. We've got a lot going on 35th. Speeds, certainly something that we keenly looked at on 35th. I-35, as Mr. Cooley mentioned, is the local nickname. Certainly the speeds have come down over the years due to some of the things that we've done. Back in 2008, the majority of people were going about 42 miles per hour on 35th. That's come down slightly in the years since then. As you can see up here, we're looking at anywhere from about 36 miles per hour at Roxbury up to nearly 41 miles per hour at Willow. Some of our new data supports that as well. We have speed studies from Southwest Graham Street in 35th that show the 85th percentile speed at 40 miles per hour. So people are still going 5+ miles per hour over the speed limit on 35th Avenue Southwest. These are
85th percentile speed identifies with cruise drivers are driving. So
yes, Mr. Jacobs, you've made that comment many times. Thank you for bringing that up again.
Why are you mentioning his name? Why are you going out his name? I'm just curious.
Why are you being so damn antagonist?
Hey guys, okay, hold on.
I'm going along.
You're on gravel.
really?
I'll just go along with the flow. Let's just set some ground rules really quick here. Okay?
Yeah, I'll take.
Let's challenge ideas, and let's not challenge people. let's all respect one another.
So going along with that, is that an average that you're talking
That's the
about?
85th percentile. 85% of drivers go at or below this speed. That means 15% of drivers are going faster than that. 15% of drivers are going faster than 41 miles per hour at Willow.
Where is Willow Street as far as,
Willow Street is 2 blocks south of Morgan.
so it's down the hill?
Correct.
Okay. Just remember that, downhill.
So when you.
But yeah, that's downhill at Southwest Graham Street, which is flat. We've got speeds at 40 miles per hour, okay? I'm gonna ask everybody to hold questions for a little while. Thank you, I know there's lots of questions out there. Again, we've been through a lot of this before. None of this should really be all that new.
But when you're measuring the speeds, and at night the cars do tend to go faster because they think no one's watching, you add that number in, and it skews the valve. So
We
then
do
you're getting
7-day speed studies. So we have so many data points over 7 days that it gets evened out. So speed matters because for the folks who are walking across the street, if they're hit by a vehicle, and there have been 15 pedestrians hit on 35th in the last 3 years, their chances of survival at 40 miles per hour are almost zero.
Can I ask how many of those were actually in crosswalks and not walking across a random street?
I will talk all about pedestrian volumes in just a little bit. I assure you that the number of pedestrians crossing the street on 35th is so significant that it's unlikely that every single person out there is misbehaving or jaywalking or whatever you want to call it. So this is why speed matters. At 40 miles per hour, if you're hit, you're probably not going to live. And if you do, your quality of life will not be very good. We know that 5 people have lost their life on 35th in the last decade. That doesn't have to be that way. The chance of injury, if a pedestrian is hit on 35th or any road, is nearly 100% no matter how fast people are going. So it's critically important that not only do we abide by the posted speed limit, but that we also look out for other people when we're out on the streets. Traffic volumes. So we've got some new data that shows about 17,000 vehicles on weekdays use 35th from Roxbury north. And then by the time we get up to Alaska Street, we're up to 25,000 vehicles per day.
But you added 100,000 units of people that live there now. So when all that was approved, that was because we were going to have the mass transit system out of here. Those continue to get built, and now it sort of feels like you're going to continue to drive into much stronger.
Yes. At the beginning of the meeting, you saw what the agenda is,
Yes.
and that there was going to be a Q&A section after the presentation. And what they are planning on doing is actually taking the mic around to people who have questions, because these people can't hear what you're saying. You keep interrupting him with your question. No one knows what you asked. And his whole presentation is being interrupted. So, yeah, the same is occurring with some other folks. So let him give this presentation, then do the Q&A. Staff member will take the mic around so everyone can hear what the question is, right? Isn't that fair? So let's do that and then we'll get through the meeting. Otherwise, if people keep interrupting, we'll never get to the end of this.
So you can see the traffic volumes have changed pretty significantly over time. Back in 2008, Roxbury was much busier, about 22,500 vehicles every day. That's down to 17,000 vehicles on a daily basis on weekdays. Traffic volumes haven't fluctuated as much at Alaska. It's still the busiest part of the corridor. This is, of course, the point at which everyone is coming together, attempting to get onto the West Seattle Bridge, or maybe you're hanging a right down Avalon and heading down to Alpine or something like that. Pedestrian volumes. I think this was a question that came up in one of our last meetings. There were some folks, I think, that were under the impression that there aren't very many people that cross 35th Avenue Southwest. So we counted, and we counted at 15 different locations. We've got many different pedestrian generators on 35th, and there's lots of places people want to go, whether that's a park, or a library, or a school, or just a bus stop. So what we found was that in the morning, during the absolute peak, when we have the most vehicles on the road, we've got about 313 pedestrians that cross 35th at those 15 location. In the middle of the day, about 239 people are crossing per hour. And then during the afternoon peak, when we've got just a whole bunch of activity going on 35th, we've got 561 pedestrians that are crossing 35th Avenue Southwest. That is just for basically 3 hours per day. That does not include times when students might be leaving school or going to school and trying to cross 35th as well. So I think it's undeniable that 35th is an important corridor for vehicles, but it's also an extremely important corridor for people who are pedestrians as well. Collisions. In the last 3 years, there have been nearly 300 total crashes on 35th. 128 people have been injured on the roadway, and there have been 2 fatalities. In the last 10 years, more than 1,000 crashes, many hundreds of injuries, and 5 fatalities. If this were a disease or a crime, I think everyone would be asking the city to do something about it without a doubt. But at any rate, we've got some very compelling collision data that shows that, unfortunately, our friends and our neighbors, and I say that because I live in Harbor Heights at the very end of 35th Avenue Southwest, our friends and neighbors are the people who are getting hurt out here. 35th, not really a regional route. People who are using it probably live in the area or use the roadway quite frequently. In the last 3 years, we've got 15 pedestrians who have been hit by vehicles, 1 person on a bicycle as well, and 40 pedestrian vehicle crashes in the last 10 years, 8 bicycle vehicles and vehicle crashes. 4 out of the 5 people who have died out here have been on either on foot or on a bicycle as well. So it's the people who are not in their vehicles who are unfortunately losing their lives on 35th Avenue Southwest. These are the top collision types on 35th, and these are the things that we look at when we come up with our designs. Because what we want to do is eliminate these problems out here. The top crash type on 35th is rear-end collisions, nearly 60 of those in the last 3 years. Angle crashes, otherwise known as T-bones, account for 49. Left turns is a big one, 33 of those. Parked car, that's one of my favorites, 31. And 26 side swipes. We've developed a plan that is going to address these very correctable collision patterns on 35th. And now, in addition, there's always, I think, as Sir, you mentioned earlier, there are contributing circumstances oftentimes when collisions do happen. On 35th, those contributing circumstances most often involve distraction, speeding, impairment, or failure to grant right-of-way to another person. The collision rate itself on 35th is actually below the citywide average, but it is, as the mayor mentioned earlier, one of the top corridors for traffic fatalities in the city of Seattle. Now, if we're serious about Vision Zero, we cannot afford to overlook 35th Avenue Southwest. In fact, it's got to be one of our top priorities. And I think, when you look at some of the other roadways that are up there, they don't feel like 35th. I mean, Aurora, 99, doesn't feel like 35th. Rainier, a little bit, but there's a little bit more business activity for the time being on Rainier. MLK, maybe, but there's light rail running down the middle of it. 35th, of course, is mainly residential. As I mentioned earlier, 84% at this point. So it seems like a little bit of an outlier. And it seems like conditions are right to make change. So, as part of outreach, we mentioned we've been at this for quite some time. So, our first set of meetings were back in October of 2014. This room was filled almost as much as it is this evening. And at those meetings, we were just asking for feedback. We shared data with you. We asked you what you thought about how we could improve safety, and asked you to talk about your experiences on the corridor. Then in March, we released the design alternatives for 35th Avenue Southwest. Now, so basically, we said, look, we're looking at two options on 35th, option A, option B. Both of those options do involve a lowered posted speed limit and some form of a rechannelization, a rebalancing, a right sizing of the road, or as it's commonly known, a road diet. And since that time, we have gotten lots of feedback from the community. So, what we basically heard was, make 35th safer for pedestrians. I think that was one of our top comments. Reduce speeds, definitely a common one. Improve parking conditions, which I think anyone who knows the corridor knows that parking can be challenging for folks. Put or don't put 35th on a road diet. We certainly heard both. Repair the pavement. We heard put the bike facilities on other routes, focus on other routes for now. So I want to reiterate that long term, we do envision some sort of bike facilities on 35th Avenue. Provide more enforcement patrols. And then we had two petitions that were circulated as well. And in fact, I think Deb, did you want to present your petition to the mayor? Yeah, I think Mayor Murray's back there. There was two petitions. Deb got that going in 2014. There was a fatality. James St. Clair was killed at 35th Avenue Southwest and Southwest Graham Street as a pedestrian. He was crossing the street in a legal crosswalk, doing everything right, and he was killed by a vehicle. There was another petition that, was definitely pro-safety, but maybe they didn't so much like the different alternatives that we had come up with. And we heard a lot from people along the corridor. We heard, let's just put some overpasses in for pedestrians, or just more, we just need more crosswalks out there. Or lighted crosswalks, whatever it may be. The problem is that we cannot install marked crosswalks without a traffic signal on a roadway like 35th Avenue Southwest because of something called the multiple threat collision, where a driver in one lane stops for the pedestrian, but the driver in the other lane has no idea why that person has stopped. They blow through the crosswalk and bad things happen. We will not install a crosswalk on 35th without a traffic signal at this time. Traffic signals are very expensive, $250,000+ a piece. And that's if we have all the space we need out there. So we started looking for some more low-cost alternatives. But at any rate, we had a robust discussion, and we met a lot of interesting people along the way, including most of you in here tonight. But I think one of the most compelling experiences that we had was when we met with the business owners that have set up shop at Southwest Kenyon Street and 35th Avenue Southwest. I don't know, are you all familiar with the Westie and Local and Kenyon Hall and all those places? They're pretty popular. As a resident of West Seattle myself, I've been really impressed at what has been able to happen there. And I've invited JP and Charlie to tell us what they told SDOT, what they told me and my colleagues when we met back in March. Guys? You gotta hold it really close.
Okay, so I go by JP, Charlie to my right. I live in West Seattle. I bought a house 12 years ago, a couple blocks off of 35th. I've always known it's a dangerous road, but I've always been able to take care of myself to get from point A to point B. The real eye-opener was opening up the Westie 7 months ago. And now we sit there and can you hear me now? So now we sit there and we watch outside every day. And we hear the comments about people walking across the street playing Frogger and worrying about whether or not they're going to die when they leave that night. Every day, we watch students try and cross the street, and they get ignored for minutes and minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. So I have to go outside and help these kids walk across the street because no one wants to stop for them. And there have been more than one occasion where I've stopped the car successfully, and the next car whizzes by and have to pull the kid back. I see side swipes almost every week, so I go out there and I turn car windows, the side view mirrors in so they don't have to get swiped off. T-bones. I mean, you can't see anything until you actually get in the middle of the road. It's just dangerous out there. There's no sight angles. You know, we're actively trying to get a crosswalk out there to create a safer passage for everyone to get across. We've got a bus stop there. We've got the school 2 blocks away. We have the businesses there. Watching it is just scary. I don't want to see someone die out there.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate everything he just mentioned. Local has been at that corner for almost 5 years now, and we see side swipes on the regular. We've seen kids from the West Side School try and cross the street every school season, playing the regular fire game before lanes of traffic, and cars just blowing past and always going faster than 35. The T-bone accidents happening on the regular, regardless of the time of day, whether it's the middle of the afternoon or middle of the night, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. So whatever makes it safer to be someone who parks on the side of the street or to be someone who's trying to cross the street, whatever we can do to make it a more pleasant experience to not be in the car and to be someone who's not being hit, I think would be an awesome thing. Yeah, I don't know. Excellent. Artistic.
Goes out and he actually flips all the mirrors in. Because people are losing mirrors out there. I think when we met, you were saying a few a week that you guys lose because parking conditions aren't very good out there either. I'm really glad that you guys came out tonight because as somebody who lives in the area, I've really been impressed with what you guys have been able to do. You've livened up the neighborhood for sure, but we want to help you guys with your safety issues out there. We have a design that's going to address just about everything that these guys spoke about here tonight, and we're about to get into it right now. So, again, when we developed this design, we were really working to balance the need to move people and goods with what was going on adjacent to the roadway, with the adjacent land uses, right? And we want to achieve our safety goals as well. We want to reduce speed. We want to reduce crashes. We want to make sure that people aren't getting injured. From our perspective, 35th is a public health and safety issue. We're going to monitor performance with what we do out there. We're going to regularly collect volume, speed, and keep tabs on crash data as well. We modeled the different alternatives, option A and option B, using traffic software known as Synchro 8 and some Traffic 8. Essentially, as you know, both of those options contain some sort of road diet or regionalization. And what the software told us is that the efficiency of the design of the roadway and some longer signal cycles effectively mitigate the loss of travel lanes on the corridor. And I say the efficiency of the design because 35th is an atrociously inefficient roadway as it is right now. If you want to make a left turn on 35th, everyone's waiting behind you because there's nowhere for them to go. There are no turn pockets in most locations. Just this evening, I was headed home to change for this meeting and went through the intersection of 35th and Holden. And there was a person making a left to head east on Holden. There were 5 or 6 cars just waiting behind them. What do those people want to do really bad? They want to get into the other lane, and they want to cruise around that person that's taking that left. And when they do that, they put themselves at risk for a sideswipe collision. That is the definition of it when you hit somebody at an angle like that. So certainly we have a design that's going to make this roadway work way better than it does today. The modeling showed us that with our 2 options, we would be looking at 1 to 2 minutes of delay, depending over what we have right now on 35th. And a maximum delay of 2.5 minutes on the corridor. Back in March, we were talking more like 3 to 4 minutes. And I think it's also important to note that our models are notoriously conservative, so these results are likely to be much better than this. And I also would mention that with the longer signal cycles, there is a little bit of a trade-off with that for people who are waiting to cross the street as pedestrians. And so what we want to do is implement this option, one of these options, which we'll talk about in the next slide, I promise. And then monitor things, be out here every day, and dial that back as we go so that we can shorten those signal cycles and get the right balance between pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So what are we going to do? That's what y'all want to know. In 2015, we are going to put 35th Avenue Southwest on a road diet between Roxbury and Willow. We are going to take an incremental approach to this for several reasons, which I'll talk about in just a moment. This work will happen very soon, in the next couple of months. And we want to talk to you all about it tonight and hear what y'all have to say about it. This is what the design looks like. More space for parking. The top is the existing condition. And as you can see in the curb lane, we have 18 feet for people to park and for people to drive. You will soon have 10 feet of space to park on the side of 35th Avenue Southwest. That will eliminate all the mirrors that are getting flipped out in front of the Westie and Local. That's going to ensure that people who are getting out of their cars don't get clipped by somebody who's, driving essentially inches away from them. And that's going to substantially improve conditions for folks who regularly park on 35th or pull into or out of their driveways, which is something we heard a lot about. That was a trouble point for a lot of people. We're going to have one lane in each direction with a center turn lane. And we are also going to have bus and turn lanes at Barton, Thistle, Holden, and Webster. So bus and turn lanes allow people who want to take a right turn to leave the flow of traffic and make that right. Buses can also use that lane, but they can go straight through there. That'll maintain good, efficient, and reliable transit times on the 21 and the 21 Express, which is my bus route. So, of course, really interested in making sure it still is a nice option. And I see a lot of people here tonight from the 21 as well, so it's good to see you all.
Bus is going to have to get back into the travel lane, correct?
Yeah, as it does today. That's correct. We are going to implement the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit on the south end of the corridor. We have designed the travel lane width according to the 30-mile-per-hour speed. We will not drop the speed limit north of Morgan this year, but we'll talk about that in a second. We are going to optimize all the signals on the corridor from one end to the other, so that way they're all working together, and you can get from one end to the other, hopefully with what we would call a green wave. But the signals will be timed for 30 miles per hour. So if you're going 50, you're not going to get the green wave. But if you're being a good driver, you will indeed be able to get through the corridor without sitting at too many traffic lights. We're also going to improve Southwest Barton Street, the approach to 35th. This has been a long-standing request of the community. Barton is a location that is actually one of the top spots in the entire city of Seattle for pedestrian crashes. There have been 4 out there recently. So what we're going to do is we're going to formalize the channel out there. We're going to make sure that we have left turn pockets, that they're designed properly, and we're going to ensure that the Rapid Ride and the 21 can make those turns out there. Provide more structure and organization to the roadway and a little predictability as well. So people know that if you're in the left turn lane, you're going to turn left. Whereas right now, it's not very organized, I think is a nice way of putting it. And also, I think it's important to note that we're not proposing changes at Roxbury Street either. So the intersection of Roxbury and 35th functions really well. There's been one crash there in the last couple of years, and it was somebody who was really impaired. And it's a really good story. You should look that one up. Well, it's not a good story, but it's an interesting story, I should say. So, that's 2015. In 2016, we are going to evaluate what we do this year and make sure that it functions properly and well. We are going to launch a neighborhood greenway study which is basically a route that is prioritized for people who are walking and biking. These are non-arterial streets, but these neighborhood greenway routes need to cross 35th somewhere. And so we are going to make that happen next year. We're also going to have the Seattle Housing Authority build on the intersection of 35th and Graham. It's a pretty massive new development out there. We're working with them to ensure that we all know what's happening and what to expect as far as changing traffic conditions. So we need to work with them to get to that point. That's all at 35th and Graham. In the meantime, Deb over here has a Neighborhood Parks and Street Fund application in to improve the pedestrian crossing at 35th and Graham as well. So there are a few unknowns on the north end of the corridor that we kind of need to wait until 2016 in order to really sink our teeth into what's happening out there. We're going to change the channelization on Southwest Morgan Street, which is right out here. Approaching 35th, we're going to give it the Barton treatment, essentially. We're going to formalize the channelization, provide left turn pockets and through lanes as well. Again, that adds predictability to the roadway. It adds more structure. And, you know, it certainly is a long-standing request from the community for changes out there. And then, moving forward in 2016, if all goes well this year, we're going to continue option A in the summer of 2016 up until Edmund Street, okay? And this is an important thing to note. I think there is a little bit of misinformation going around in some of the comments. You know, the busiest part of 35th is north of Edmonds as you approach the West Seattle Bridge. We are not proposing changes in that location, which is a little ahead of myself. So this part where we have everybody coming together is going to remain essentially the same, with the exception of repaving and new curb ramps for the entire corridor, which will happen pending the levy to move Seattle. And with that, we're also going to do some extra enforcement activities on this roadway. We've been working really closely with Captain Pierre Davis and SPD's traffic unit to develop these data-driven enforcement patrols. And 35th is high on our list. We also have grant funds for extra patrols as well. These grant funds are actually going to focus on pedestrian safety and those patrols. Our target areas are going to be the entire stretch north of Morgan, where they'll be looking for things like failure to yield to pedestrians and, of course, speeding. At Barton and Raymond, we're going to focus mainly on pedestrian safety. Both of those locations are high crash locations for pedestrians. So we want to address those locations through engineering design, but also through enforcement as well. And we'll also continue to enforce our school zone. SPD does a great job at the West Seattle Elementary Our Lady of Guadalupe school zone. That will continue into this foreseeable future. What are the benefits? This is an FHWA proven countermeasure for reducing crashes, reducing the number of crashes that occur and the severity of crashes as well. We're going to significantly improve parking conditions, and as I mentioned earlier, people's ability to go in and out of their driveways for those folks who live right on 35th. We are going to address those collision patterns. We're going to eliminate a bunch of those left turn crashes. We are definitely going to probably come close to eliminating the number of people who hit parked cars. We are definitely going to do a number on those angle crashes as well with this, because this design actually opens up sight lines for everyone. By reconfiguring the roadway, you'll be able to see people and make your decisions and judgments much easier because of that. There will be less exposure for pedestrians crossing the street. You won't have to cross 4 lanes of traffic anymore. You'll have to cross 3, so you'll be exposed to traffic much less. There will be, of course, the potential for new crosswalks along the corridor, which we would call low-cost crossing improvement. Whereas a signal costs upwards of $250,000, a crosswalk can cost much, much, much less than that. We will have maximum capacity at all of our turn pockets, which is currently a big issue for Metro Transit out here. Currently, like for example, at 35th and Barton, when one bus wants to make a left turn, the whole tail of the bus sticks out into traffic. That's an issue in itself right there. We're going to eliminate that problem. Turns will be easier to and from 35th. You'll have that center turn lane right there. If you want to make a left, you're actually going to pull out of the flow of traffic. That's the efficiency in the roadway. So turns will be much, much easier for everyone. We have those transit efficiency treatments. So that's, of course, the 21 runs on time and remains a reliable option. And of course, there's minimal impact to traffic. I mentioned earlier that the maximum delay that we see in our modeling is 2.5 minutes during rush hour, if you will. During most of the day, we're talking like 40 seconds of difference. And that's mainly because the speed limit has been dropped from 35 to 30. So this is significantly good news for the neighborhood. This will absolutely improve safety. And we know that because we've done this many, many, many times. In fact, SDOT has done projects of this nature almost 40 times now.
Yeah, on Farmer Way, you did not change the speed limit, and you had very good control.
That's right, we did not change the speed limit. And people are driving about 33 miles per hour on Fauntleroy Way. But what we've seen is also on Fauntleroy, crashes are down 31%. The 85th percentile speed is only down 1%, but it's actually below the posted speed limit, so we're okay with that. The people who are really, really flying, that's down 13%, and the volumes have actually gone up, and the roadway still functions really well.
Capped at 35 miles an hour speed.
On 75th, which is our most recent rechan, we have been able to reduce crashes by 50%. That's huge, and this, again, is a low-cost treatment. We've reduced 85th percentile speeds by 13%. People now drive 31 miles per hour. The posted speed limit is 30. The people who are going really fast, 40 plus miles per hour on 75th, has been almost completely eliminated. And volumes have increased 3% on the corridor. So we've done this before. We know it works. Our models show that as well, or that it works well. And we're looking to get going on this pretty soon. We're looking at September, October 2015 for implementation for our 2015 work. In the spring of 2016, we'll have some project information sessions so that you all can come out and check in with us, learn about how things are going. We'll also issue a report, a before and after a year. But then, if things are going well, in the spring, we'll look at implementing phase 2 next year as well. So we are primed and ready to go with this. With that, that ends the formal presentation for the evening. I know there are lots of people who have questions, so let's dive in.
Can we bring up the lights?
Bring up the lights, yes. Bring up the lights.
Oh, okay. This is all nice and looks good on paper. You guys are looking through those smart glasses. One, I don't know if you paid attention to math, the people around here paid attention. Monday, the mayor came out with his housing plan. The whole of 35th from Fauntleroy to Roxbury has all been upzoned from single-family residences to multifamily residences, which means on a 5,000 square foot lot, a building 70 feet high can be built, which, rudimentary, basic estimates for 1,000 square foot apartments per floor, 24 6-story building, with, of course, this Seattle famous no parking required. So now you've got parking issues again, spilling out of the neighborhood. Today, you mentioned today, I drove 35th at 35 miles an hour. I got behind a car doing 20 miles an hour. The problem with your road is you're predicating on everybody doing at least 30 miles an hour. You're going to have people that are going to do 20 miles an hour. It happens today, it happens all the time, even with multi-lane roads on a 35 mile an hour road. That's gonna screw up your delays. And as far as you said 4-minute delay, two and a half max. During peak hours. You know what, I have been driving 35th, I moved to West Seattle, was born in Seattle, moved to West Seattle in 91. In 2009, I moved just south, but I take 35th, all right, a lot. I took it for 8 years, 9 years, I took it every day to go to South Lake Union. To try to get people to go to one lane is on the only last remaining 2-lane road in and out of Seattle, north and southbound. All right? You're increasing the population of West Seattle, increased density, reducing traffic. You just said that I don't know how you're going to plan to make room for all these cars that people will own.
Okay, thanks for the comment. Let's first say that you're right, Seattle's growing, one of the fastest cities in the country, but there's no correlation between increasing population and increasing traffic volumes. In fact,
Let me do this a little. Excuse me. Let me do a little clarification here, because there's been a little bit of myth that has been put out there about what we've recommended around affordable housing. So the entire lane that you just said is being upzoned from single family to multifamily, that's one of the myths that's out there.
It's on your map, sir.
Actually, can I finish?
It's on your map.
Can I finish? Right there. Actually, what it is of being upzoned is currently those areas that are already zoned multifamily get an additional floor in return for building affordable housing in the city that is not affordable. If we're going to deal with the issue of affordable housing in this city, we are all going to have to do something. So again, 94% of single-family homes are not affected by this plan. We are talking about urban villages. So when you hear that we are putting multifamily homes where there are single-family homes, that is not true. In those urban villages and transit districts where there's already zoned for multifamily, we're allowing another additional floor, one floor, in return for affordable housing in that building. That's a very different thing than saying that we're zoning the city and we're doing away with single-family housing. So let's deal with facts. Also, that was my proposal. The council process is beginning. There's going to be a lot of chance to have input on this proposal.
Ask folks to be respectful of everybody's time. So there's a lot of folks in the room. There's a lot of folks that probably would like to have an opportunity to talk and say their piece, and it's already about 8:05. So if everybody could sort of be respectful of other folks' time, say your piece, allow Jim to respond if you have questions, and then if you have enough, and let everybody who hasn't spoken have a chance to speak first, and then we can come back, and if there's more to say, happy to stick around as long as people would like.
thank you, Scott. And I would say there is no direct correlation between increasing population and traffic volumes. Sir, the population of the city of Seattle has been going up, up, up. Traffic volumes have been going down, down, down,
But
down.
traffic is
Yes, sir.
gotten worse and worse and worse.
My name's Bob Neal, and I wrote the petition that was in counter to these option proposals that 916 of you have signed. I would like to beg the indulgence of the community for about a minute and a half to 2 minutes to present the opposing viewpoint, if I could, please.
Thank you.
Sir, can you get the mic back to Jim? There's a lot of folks that have a chance.
I know that, but I'm talking for 915 people. That's a fact. Now, our position is that he's right. Population, as far as the problem, I hope you can see this around. The population has grown 14% in the study period. Traffic is down 8%.
Right.
Collisions are down 35%. So how bad is 35th? I'm going to be very contrarian and probably heretical here by saying that for the 3-year period that Jim quoted in his study, and I admit, I only have access to the SDOT data that's on their website, so you guys have a lot better data. But the number of accidents was 294, which is what he presented. The number of trips, and I made a mistake here, is 26,937,000 which comes out to a defect rate of 10.9 parts per million. Maybe some of you have heard of the quality movement, and in the quality movement there's this holy grail called Six Sigma, which is considered to be essentially perfect. And in this case, 10.91 parts per million is about 5 3/4 sigma, because 6 sigma is 3.1, 5 sigma is 233. So that's how big the problem may or may not be. The second step is to fix. A comparison. For 2013, comparing Del Ridge to 35th, Del Ridge already has the channelization, and I'm not positive, is it 30 miles or 35? It's 35?
35.
Del Ridge had 1 vehicular fatality, 0 pedestrian, 0 bicycle, 0 motorcycle, and 5 serious injury collisions. 35th had 0 vehicular, 1 very tragic pedestrian, and 0, 0, 0. So here's an arterial quote that has been fixed quote, and here's the one that is so drastically awful and hasn't been fixed, and I ask you to make the comparison. But finally, we had a petition, we had some votes, and as of 6 p.m. tonight, the SAFER petition, which, by the way, many people, who's against it? Had 864 votes. The one asking for 4 lanes and 35 miles per hour to be maintained, along with safety improvements.
Like what?
Like pedestrian crossings and moving bus stops.
They just
And
said they can't do that.
Yeah,
moving bus stops and getting people out of weaving. Yes, we're saying, what we are saying is 916 people, and I have printed out, Mr. Mayor, I just encourage you to take a quick look. This is about 1/4 of the comments from all of you folks who have said, don't do it, and they are anywhere from irrational to highly rational on this. And maybe more one way or the other. But I really wanted to say, and I'm mildly curious, for example, I signed both, because I want it safer, but I don't want to mess up the arterial. I'm mildly curious, how many in the room signed the safer petition? Can I see a show of hands? How many in the room signed the keep it 4 lanes and 35 miles an hour speed limit?
How many of you guys were at the last meeting?
Signed. And I was at the last one.
How many of you guys were?
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I'll take my stuff down.
I would say that, we did, of course, brief leadership on the various different petitions that are going on. I would also say that as part of our Vision Zero effort, we're coming to Del Ridge later this year. We're also coming to the other corridors that we mentioned earlier. We're coming to MLK, we're coming to Aurora, State Route 99, and MLK as well. So just because we're talking about 35th tonight does not mean that we're ignoring those other roadways. That is for sure. Sir, you had a chance. I'm going to pass it over to this gentleman right here.
Hello. So, on that thing you showed about going from 18 feet to 21 feet, how are you going to do that? Are you going to be taking out part of the sidewalk? I mean, it's 55 feet, so suddenly you're going to go to like 60. So I'm just kind of wondering how that's going to look.
Sure.
And I apologize if I missed that. And I have to say, I came in here very pessimistic, but what I've seen so far, good job. I just missed accident, that guy died, and you keep saying that there's a crosswalk there, but there isn't one on the ground.
That's correct. It is a legal crossing.
It's a legal crossing.
It's a legal, that's right. Drivers are required to stop for pedestrians at every intersection. Every intersection has a legal crosswalk, whether it is marked or not. Yeah, yes.
I have to say though, and again, I have no disrespect to the family or anything like that, but I lived here for 8 years, and rode 100 pounds ago, rode competitively cycling. Never had a problem in Seattle riding bikes since going to Seattle U. So I'm a little bit, that's the other part. The mayor says he wants to give people more options, but we all know that's code word for getting us out of our cars, and I understand that. But when less than 1% of the people bicycle in this city, giving them a dedicated bike lane, that's
Well,
one
we're
thing.
not talking about there are no bike lanes at this time. No bike lanes. And in fact, we're making sure that transit works really well, because we know lots of people are taking the bus on 35th. So those are the options we're talking about right now. We're making it so you can still drive on 35th. There's no doubt about that. And you can take the bus as well. Okay. Are you sure?
Jim Scott, don't know Mr. Mayor.
I'm here.
Thank you. I have been to a number of new channel meetings, both for this project, for other projects in the city of Seattle. You hear the same thing all of them. It's going to be bad. It's going to be terrible. Most of the vocal criticism that we have for these projects is, on the uncertainty and the fear of what might happen. And it doesn't. In the projects that you've done, the roads have improved. They've gotten better. And I just wanted to say, I want to thank you all for dealing with the problems that we know we have today, and not the fear of what might happen by not dealing with it.
You stated that Fauntleroy was going to go down to 30 miles an hour. Is that still happening, or is that off the table?
We're looking at,
No, I didn't ask that. I said, is that still on the table?
Oh, that's
You said
definitely on the
It was going
table.
to go to 30 miles an hour.
That's definitely on the table, yes. So we've done a lot of data collection, both on 35th, Delridge, and Fauntleroy as well. And what we found is that 85% of people drive at 33
Right, I
miles per
heard
hour
that,
on
but I
Fauntleroy.
just want to know, are they also going to 30? If yes is the answer,
The answer
then I'm
is
good.
yes.
I'm good.
Yes,
It's all good.
absolutely.
Well, I'm Janet Ford. My family has lived in West Seattle for 75 years. I have lived on 35th for 41 years. I've seen a lot of changes. Some of them I don't like. The fact that finally, after years and years, the pothole guys showed up in front of my house and filled a couple of potholes where the concrete and the asphalt meet. Then a few weeks later, they came out and did it again. Yet, 35th and Holden is crappy. 35th and Barton is crappy. Those intersections need to be fixed. The ridge between the concrete and the asphalt, if you're not careful, it can throw your car. And when it comes to something to make people aware of people crossing 35th, there was out on Ambom, near 128th, just north of there. Boy, when somebody wants to cross Ambom, there's lights flashing all over the place. I thought, hey, we need that on 35th. It would help.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is we have different standards than Burien does. Certainly, every time I drive through there, I kind of cringe a little bit because I know about the multiple threat collision. Now, if we're going to put in new crossings on 35th with the work we're doing here, we'll still have those lights out there. There's no doubt about it. We'll get rapid flashing beacons out there and new crossings as well.
But you just said you had to put a signal in where to put a new crosswalk.
Only if it's more than 3 lanes. So we are going to make 35.
You are different in King County. Seattle's requirements for crosswalks in King County are different. Because on 16th
That's the city of
by
Marion.
SARS, no, 16th on SARS.
Oh, okay, sure.
Is a rapid flashing crosswalk crossing 5 lanes of traffic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you cannot do that in Seattle, but they can do it in King County.
We do not do that in Seattle.
Because
here's why. Because studies. We certainly could if we wanted to put people at risk. But numerous studies over the years have shown that crosswalk, even with all its lights, is actually less safe than no crosswalk at all.
It got installed in last year with the rapid lights.
Someone just died there. 2 months ago?
Lots of states let you do stupid stuff. That doesn't mean-
Well, the lights
Let's pass the mic.
just went in last year.
Next, yeah. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Bruce Brewer, and I wanted to challenge some of your statistics. You said more population, less traffic. Well, your statistics up here show that traffic flow are increased from 23,000 to 25,000.
the south end of the corridor.
Okay, but total down where the crunch is 10 years.
Where we're not proposing any changes, that's correct.
All right. Another thing, 600 accidents in 10 years, correct? 50% of them you said were impaired drivers. How?
No, that is not true for 35th, that's true citywide.
What?
Citywide, about 30 to 50% of the people who die on our streets, the fatality crashes are caused by some sort of impairment.
How many of these accidents are caused by impaired drivers?
On 35th?
Yeah.
I can think of only a handful out
Oh,
here on
I
35th. I would say, I will tell you, yes, one of the fatalities that occurred on 35th did involve some behavior that, we wouldn't recommend for
I had
drivers.
2 accidents right up at Webster that I went up to help out with, and they were all everybody was drunk on the map about 5 years ago. Also, we have probably 85 million transits of vehicles up and down 35th over 10 years, and 600 accidents. That's not too bad. And will you guarantee that the buses will get their rear ends out of the road so traffic can go by?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And at some point, people crossing the street, riding their bikes, have got to take responsibility for themselves too. We can't make the drivers be responsible for people that do not take responsibility.
But let's be clear about one thing. Pedestrians and bicyclists, yeah, people break the rules, but all people break the rules. Drivers break the rules like crazy. The difference is that the consequences are much different when you're behind the wheel of a multi-ton automobile as a pedestrian. The idea here is that, yeah, we all need to play by the rules in order for things to be safe. There's no doubt about that. You're definitely right. But it's everyone, not just pedestrians and bicyclists and drivers.
The automobile driver pay the price of people that are bicycle riding and walking improperly.
When's the last time a bicyclist got a traffic ticket?
Yeah.
I don't work for the Seattle Police Department, but I can assure you that bicyclists get tickets in the city all the time.
I've been told by my friend.
I have my card here, I have access to SPD's sector system, I'd be more than happy to provide that information. It's a big city, guys. Next.
Yeah, I do some work in the city as far as volunteers for this Block Watch program since 1990. And one of the things that we do in the community is do some disaster preparedness type work. And so one of the things I was curious about, one thing I haven't heard mentioned, and I apologize because I was was around disaster preparedness. And when we have, here in West Seattle, as you know, we have a lot of vehicles, disaster preparedness response, ambulances. Since we don't have a hospital here, getting out into some of these other hospitals downtown. I'm curious in terms of how that's worked out. If an ambulance is behind a lot of traffic, are they shooting down the middle lane? I made a phone call about 6 hours ago to the fire department, and they weren't aware of any of this going on. So I was just, again, I just wanted to put that out there, and I was just curious.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think the local fire department probably would not be aware of what's prepared out here. Don Ho Chang's our city traffic engineer. He meets regularly with the fire chief to discuss these changes to the roadway out here. And I can tell you that on projects of a similar nature, like Northeast 25th comes to mind, travel times and response times for emergencies have actually improved. And the reason why is, well, number one, you're supposed to get out of the way when there's lights and sirens, right? So you're supposed to pull over. So no emergency vehicle should actually get stuck behind traffic. But secondly, there's the center turn lane in the middle, which is theirs to use, and they most certainly do utilize those.
They were concerned. The person I spoke with said it doesn't work well. And so that was one of those things, again, I just wanted to put out there because that was number one, no communication with that fire department about this whole process.
So we have regular meetings with the deputy chief English, who coordinates with all the fire departments. Again, there's so many different fire departments. He handles all the issues for the local firehouses. Depending on the person you're talking to, again, it might not be the captain that.
Lieutenant.
Okay, so again, when we coordinate, we go through deputy chief on all these projects that might have fire projects like this, what we found is that it actually enhances fire response. Again, they have a way to get around vehicles because of the center turn lane. Because we have made the roadway safer, they're not responding to collisions out on this corridor, because again, those tends to be the most frequent number of ports that they're responding to, is auto collisions and collisions on the roadway. So we also track citywide how the system is working for them, so we coordinate as well system-wide on locations where we're trying to improve, and these new traffic signals that we're putting in preemption devices, so that they can now, as they come up, they trigger the signals to turn green for them, only for the direction they're responding, so that now they have a much easier time to get through the corridor.
Let's take a couple more questions. Having the Camp Long shirt right here.
Hi, my name's Cecilia McClure, and I've lived on 35th Street for 22 years between Dawson on the north and Brandon on the south. And I have a few questions based on witnessing a pedestrian being killed by trying to rescue his dog. My retaining wall in front of my house was hit by a drunk driver as well as my car, and a head-on collision took out the tree in front of my house, along with my neighbor's tree. So just in this one block, we have witnessed speeding, impaired driving, poor judgment, a variety of things, and it's all been expensive and very sad. I was wondering how come the speed detector at Brandon and 35th was removed, because my experience is people gun the car going up past Mount St. Vincent's, hit that flat in front of my place and are going very fast. Can that come back? It seemed to be, I don't know if it made a difference, but I felt it made a difference. I don't have any statistics. Can that come back?
That is coming back. That's actually being repaired right now. That was installed in 2008. And, we found that those do bring down speeds in many locations, sometimes as much as 5 miles per hour. And in fact, it was after we installed those radar speed signs that the 85th percentile speed went from 42 miles per hour to much lower than that in some spaces. So I think those are an effective treatment. Did you have a follow-up?
Yes. I used to volunteer at Camp Long in their Citizen Advisory Council, and we had submitted on 2 separate occasions petitions because of, the arts, nature and arts consortium and school groups and a variety of things trying to get across to Camp Long a request for an on-demand crosswalk. And you had mentioned some other low-cost crosswalk options rather than the expensive signal. To me, people are worth the expensive signal. But I'm trying to stay in my adult legal state here. And so what would be this low-cost crosswalk option?
So there are several locations along the corridor where we know people want new crosswalks. Kenyon being one of them, and Dawson being another. Graham and Juneau have also come up as well. As far as what a low-cost crossing would look like, it could potentially be a signal. Up at Dawson, we might think about a signal because traffic volumes are still pretty high. But further south, we might think about some flashing lights along with signage, overhead signage. Very similar to what's been done recently in California Avenue Southwest and Southwest Dakota, just north of the Alaska Junction, where we have rapid flashing beacons. The beacons are much more effective than the old style that were circular and a little bit dull. These are more like police strobes that really get your attention. And we've found that compliance is pretty decent with these new type of crosses that we have.
I've lived on 35th for a little over, or almost 15 years, and I like Providence. And this is my first meeting, and I'm kind of excited about 2 things you presented. One being the turn lane. I'm very excited about that. The next thing then my other question around parking. So,
Well, let me answer your first question first. The answer is that no, we're not going to remove any parking from 35th. We're going to be able to preserve it all. There's one location where we are going to have to restrict it for the morning peak, and that's approaching Southwest Holden Street. That, in order for the buses to move through that intersection in a timely manner, we do need to put parking restrictions from probably 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. for about 200 feet south of Holden. Everywhere else on the corridor, parking will remain the same and get much, much better for everyone.
Thank you. So my other question kind of surrounded that, and I think you answered it because it doesn't sound like parking's going to be impacted that much. In fact, it's going to be made better.
That's correct.
Sounds like to me.
That's absolutely.
So I was concerned about housing values and how this would impact housing values on 35th, but it doesn't sound like if parking's not an issue, I kind of doubt it's going to impact values. I was concerned about that because some houses on 35th rely on street parking because they don't have adequate parking. So that was a concern for me. And then for the buses will just be pulling off the street, right?
That's correct.
And there will be
That's a great
designated places where the buses pull off. There's no parking allowed in those areas, just like now.
Parking is already restricted around our bus zones. It's going to remain the same way. There will be no bus poles on 35th. I understand that people don't very much like the way that the intersection of California and Fauntleroy currently functions. That is not coming to the corridor at all. And in general, I'm not sure how housing values would increase or decrease, but I would imagine that there won't be a significant effect, but that the neighborhood is going to become much more walkable, and because of that, you might see a bump in your housing price. Let's take one more question over here.
So there was one piece of data I didn't see in the presentation, which was the impact of travel time on the other corridors that have been rechannelized. I just moved here from Ballard about 3 weeks ago, and I used to drive Nickerson Street almost every day. And that's actually a place where I would think the rechannelization improved travel times tremendously. Yes. So I'm wondering what the impact was on those other corridors where you showed the safety improvements.
That's a really good question. Yeah, certainly travel times on Nickerson have improved. Travel times on 75th have improved or stayed the same for the most part.
You didn't change the speed limit on any of those corridors.
That's correct. We did not change the speed limit on any of those corridors.
Your technical basis
So
to lower the speed
for 35th, we're talking about 1.5 miles in 2015. By reducing the speed limit by 5 miles per hour, it will take you about 25 seconds longer if you get every single green light along the way. 25 seconds is probably not a huge thing to give up in order to get these massive safety benefits for the neighborhood here.
25 seconds by keeping the same speed limit. You did it on Fauntleroy. You have no technical data. I'm asking for 3 months to send me a study. You haven't done it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Been working in this profession for 24 years, and our paradigm has been build the roadway plus 10 for the design speed and to get the behavior that we currently see all over the United States, which is not very pedestrian friendly. If you get into collision in your car, consequences could be very severe. And now we're sort of pivoting as our population ages and as our the impact of getting into collision is really severe for those individuals. We want to rethink our paradigm. We want to make sure that we can still travel through our corridor safely, which we have made almost 40 plus corridors in the city since 1970. It's a proven countermeasure in terms of the tool that we've been using, the rechannelization in the United States. Seattle has been a leader, but it's been used all over in the United States. The other element that we want to make sure is what we've seen on 75th is that actually your travel time improved along the corridor. It was kind of unexpected in terms of what we normally see in our analysis and our modeling, but the reality is that people are really adaptive. and that providing those spaces and organization improves how people travel through the corridor. It's very predictable, you don't have the collisions anymore, and so the impact of any collisions decreases. A 50% reduction in collisions is huge in terms of, imagine that collision and the impact to the lives of people, and then all the people that are impacted behind it. We have to now respond, make sure that the people are taken care of, and clear those scenes. And so, long term for us, what we want to do in our corridor is to make sure that we can get through safely, and that we have this organization that makes it predictable. And then for the communities that are living along and across this corridor, when people are taking those buses, we have to cross that street. We have to walk along the street. And so, we saw a 10% increase in the population in Seattle, and but it's because people are taking transit. We have a 40% increase in transit ridership. That is really carrying the bulk of our growth. And we want this vibrancy. We want our community livable, right? And so as more people walk, and as we make our streets safer, it's really incumbent upon us to evaluate, and that's what we're doing. We're going to be coming back, we're going to be here watching the corridor every day. We're going to be responding. We want to get your feedback. That's how you live here. You know how things are functioning. Let us know, and we can make changes very quickly so that we're going to listen.
So 916 people signed a petition to keep the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit and keep it a 4-lane. Why not keep the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit and change it to 3 lanes, which I don't have a problem with, and then you get a win-win situation. Farmway was very successful.
So it's about the people who are impacted by the collision. So what we want to do is take the big
And that's what the 3-lane street section will do for you.
So
the placebo of lowering the speed limit doesn't change behavior.
So we're changing the corridor for that 30 miles per hour, and we're going to set the speed limit at that. Our expectancy is that as you're crossing the
follow-up study.
I didn't answer the question.
So, Marcus, again, is a close friend of mine, a close colleague, and so I really do respect his opinion. Again, it is the paradigm that I was educated in and how I learned my profession. I now have understood the consequences of these decisions. And so we're trying to make communities better. Again, we'll do follow-up studies. We'll make sure that the corridor is functioning safely, that we have efficiency. What we expect is that we're going to have a safe corridor for you to, as you drive along the corridor, that you will have ability to respond to any sudden movements. Again, that's the goal, that we have safe, predictable for all modes on our streets.
So then we thought about.
Thanks, Tom. No, sir, we got to move on to the next part of the agenda here. I will say that cities across the world are doing very similar things. London dropped all their speed limits. San Francisco, New York City. These cities are doing this very thing that we're doing here. Not only that, San Francisco is proposing this same exact treatment for one of their busiest corridors in town that actually carries 45,000 vehicles a day. So it can be done. We're going to bring it.
They have best transit.
If you have a good transit system, yes.
Yeah.
We don't have a good transit system.
I would say that the 21 Express is a fantastic way to get to and from downtown, and it's going to remain that way. I know because I drive the corridor every day, I ride the bus almost every day, and I cross 35th every day. I assure you that there are very few people, certainly in the Seattle Department of Transportation, that know 35th as well as I do, and as well as members of our design team. Now, having said all that, we have our design right here. We want to talk with you one-on-one about these changes and show you what the corridor is going to look like. Before we do that, I want to thank Mayor Ed Murray for coming out and listening to everyone Scott Cooley, thank you very much. Really appreciate you all coming out tonight and participating in this dialogue. There will be several of us around the room to speak with. I understand people have a lot to say. We've got about 25 minutes until we need to be out of here, so thank you all very much for coming and listening.